Hello again. We are going to be looking at problem number 3, which is found on page 199 of your geometry textbook. This is also found in lesson 3-8, talking about the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. When we look at problem number 3, we're checking to see if these two lines are perpendicular or not. Now remember, the definition of perpendicular or not is that the two slopes are perpendicular to each other. That means they form a right angle. Now at first glance, these look like they are perpendicular. They do look like they meet at a right angle right here. But to make absolutely sure, what we have to do is we need to check their slopes. If their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other, that means if you flip them and made them opposite, they would be matching slopes. Okay, opposite reciprocal. Opposite means if one's positive, the other one's negative, or vice versa. Reciprocal means that the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. When that happens, then that's a way to prove mathematically that slopes are perpendicular to each other. So if we look at the slope of line 1, which is this slope right here, we're going to use these 2 points that are on that line. And again, slope is found by taking the difference in the y values, dividing it by the difference in the x values. So they did 2 minus negative 4, which was here and here, and they're dividing it by negative 4 minus 0, which is here and here. When you do, you're going to end up with 6 over negative 4. Both of those are divisible by 2, so we can simplify that and get negative 3/2. Now, same goes for the measure of line 2, which is this one right here. We're going to use these 2 points because these are the 2 points that are on this particular line. So again, it's the difference in the y values, 3 minus negative 3, over the difference in the x values, which is 4 minus negative 5. Again, 2 negatives make a positive, so that ends up being 6. 2 negatives make a positive, so that ends up being 9. And again, 3 will go into both of these numbers. So that simplifies into 2/3. When we look at negative 3/2 and negative 2/3, you can always test it by multiplying them together. If it equals negative 1, then you know that the two slopes are perpendicular. I like to think of it more of, is this the opposite reciprocal of this? That means if I flipped it and made it opposite of this one, do I get this one? And of course, yes. The answer is yes as well. And of course, the other way is the way the book is showing here, that if you multiply your two slopes together, you should always get negative 1. Okay, and either way, it's both showing that these are parallel here. Now, if we're going to try to find in the got it section here, here's the 2 points that are on line 3, and here's the 2 points that are on line 4. So if I do line 3 here, it's going to be negative 1 minus 7 over 3 minus 2. Just be consistent in the way that you're doing those, and you'll be fine. And so I end up with negative 8 over 3 minus 2, which is 1, or just negative 8. Either way is fine. That or that says the same thing. Now, if I'm doing the slope of line 4, then that's going to be 7 minus 6 over 8 minus negative 2. And 7 minus 6 is 1. 8 minus negative 2 becomes 10. And so the slope of this line is 1 over 10. Negative 8 over 1 times 1 over 10 gives me negative 8 over 10, which is definitely not negative 1. So that's showing that these two lines for the got it are not, and the symbol for perpendicular is an upside down T, so they're not perpendicular. Okay. The other way would say if you flipped the negative 8 over 1, you should get 1 over 8. And the negative here would become positive. and we did not get that. So that's another way of checking to see that these two lines are not perpendicular. They must have opposite reciprocal slopes for that to be true. Okay, best of luck.